here over the course of tonight as well, picking up some decent points. Second place for Jeffrey Rietveld at Hockenheimring, giving them the 20 points, as well as Luke Bennett's 7th place with 6 points going towards them as they now make their way into finalist mode. Stellar showing from the pairing as now they get set ready for qualifying, and we're looking forward to seeing who comes out on top. Now, this is going to be imperative. Obviously, here at the Temple of Speed, one of the longest straights you'll see in racing here, and by the sound of the music, the sound of music here at ESL R1, brought to you by Aramco. Qualifying about to get underway. It's never been more imperative, Arjuna.
I think, right, this qualifying session right here for Porsche Coanda, for Maus, they've got to make sure they're up towards the front. You said RAG's been struggling a little bit. They clearly need to be able to work some magic. Marcel Chinchik, the master of Monza, well, not going to necessarily see how he's going to get on, but there is Enzo Benito, one driver that I'm keeping an eye on. You saw him angrily shake the hand. Hopefully he's not going to get too angry out on track. He is 4 penalty points away from a qualifying ban.
Well, I can give you some juicy insight as well on the Team Redline squad. Last night, they were in a call with the one only Max Verstappen, and of course, prior to running in the Grand Prix this weekend, Max Verstappen got onto the call with that of Enzo Benito, Kevin Siggy, as well as Jeffrey Rietveld and Luke Bennett, just giving the boys a pep talk, just giving them some words of wisdom, some advice before stepping into tonight's affair. And naturally now it's down to Enzo Benito, the Italian stallion, who's going to look to try and plant his car to the very top as well. Sector 1 to decide an opening time. Of course, generally a 34.7 is what we'd like to see. He does lay down a 34.8, a 10th outside the threshold we'd like to see.
Yeah, in terms of lap times, we're hoping to see
maybe
a couple of drivers pop into the 145s, but it's definitely not going to be Enzo Benito, who's going to start from the back. And now the pressure gets laid down on Kevin Siggy, not just because he's going to want to get to the front in qualifying, but now when we go racing, Benito down the back, if Siggy's up the front, he's got no teammates to help him to potentially grab this championship for Team Redline.
And look, Benito with the eyes closed. He knows what that could have been as well. Serralio straight coming up next before Ascari. His face says it all as he makes his way down through towards the next left and right, and then left again before then venturing down towards the Kerber Alboreto for the first time here in qualifying. As now the Redline car, all dressed up, of course, in its familiar livery. Of course, we've seen it compete in the spring season. Remember, Team Redline, of course, team champions in the spring series as well. They know how to win competitions such as this. They've done it time and time again as Benito now exits the curve. Alboreto now 38.173. We'd usually like to see a 35.5. Unfortunately, that middle sector nowhere near where they would wish it to be. Crossing the line now for Enzo Benito. The Italian now will set a Sector 3 time of 35.8, which is 2/10 off where it would need to be in terms of threshold, and that's a 148.903. His teammate Kevin Siggy, though, up next.
Yeah, and Kevin Siggy's first sector, about a 10th or so off from where we would expect, but right on the money in that middle sector. And it's now through that very final corner, a long sweeper. So much temptation to get on the power too early, but Siggy managing to temper the rear end, and as he powers his way to the line. Remember, 146 flat, what we would like to hit. Well, 146.1, it's a decent lap time for Siggy, but you can tell slightly disappointed.
Probably would have wanted another 10th in that final sector. Joshua Rogers, though, the man who you need in any qualifying outfit, certainly 34.8 flat, but 34.7, as we have said, that tends to be where we like to see it. Second sector, a 35.6, again, a little bit outside the 35.5 that we might have preferred seeing in Sector 2 as well. So Joshua Rogers under his own little bit of blanket of pressure here. He's going to be somewhere close, I think, to Kevin Siggy, unless he marshals in a superb Sector 3, as now the Porsche makes its way up towards the line. Indeed, it is second fastest, but only 9 thousandths off.
I think, really, it shows that Kevin Siggy's time may be actually quite strong, and now we have to see what the other BMWs are going to be able to do. Yoni Tourmaline in that first sector, well, it's a 34.9, almost a 35 flat. That's not necessarily what he will want to see. And for the G2 Esports number 51, as the Finn swoops through that final corner, expecting it to be on the wrong side, because look at that slowdown through the final sector, just not looking like he's carrying that momentum through, and it's going to be a 146.4. Oh, it's almost a quarter of a second off the pace.
That final sector was good. The first two, I think, is where he lost the time required, of course. Now, as we see Yuri Kanstorp fighting the car, heading through the Ascari chicane, 34.7, sorry, in the first sector. Very good, but obviously the second sector, not so good. In fact, losing 2 seconds in that middle sector, which of course will be attributed to that slowdown. Could placing below Enzo Benito at this point now as he ventures through the final corner at Kerber Alboreto. Heads up towards the line. Let's see where Yuri Kasdorp's time comes out. Let's see if he was affected a lot in Sector 3 as he does come across line 35.8. He did in fact lose a couple of tenths, but does go faster than Enzo Benito, but definitely suffered a slowdown.
Yeah, and that's crucial, especially for Benito, right? The fact that he'll have one more car to try and work past to join his teammate. Here comes Orhan Yayovsky in that number 88. First sector right on the money. Second sector right on the money as well. This might be a very good time. The Audis can be quick. Usually it's Marcel Cinczyk, the master of Monza. What can his teammate do? It's going to be a 46 flat and pole position for Yayovsky.
Top three all within a single tenth of a second as well. Mac Backham, also the Big Mac. 34.7 in the first sector is around where he needs to be. The middle sector is also there too. So Mac Backham looking to come in and join the squabble as he enters the Kerber Alboreto as well. Also in the Porsche. Hasn't necessarily had his best championship run, but certainly looking to try and cooperate with the Porsche Coanda team to try and attribute themselves right up into finalist mode as now the Dutchman looks to strike. Nestling in a 35.8 in the final sector, 2 tenths outside of where he might need to be, but nonetheless he gained a reasonable time, fourth fastest.
It's an important lap time as well. Yes, it's 300s or so off of Rogers, and it's going to put Backham in the mix after those first two races, not necessarily going hyper-max way. Thibaut Casabon, one of the newest of our drivers that joined us in that spring season that carries over into this Gamers8 event. Decent in both those sectors so far, and of course Yayovsky's gone to pole. Can Thibaut Casabon make it? Romain Grosjean 1 and 2 as he swoops to the line. Nope, it's a 1:46.227, and he's behind Mac Backham.
Yeah, crucially lost a bit of time in that final sector. Bono Hoos as well. Mercedes having a really poor day, but have swapped in for 2 new drivers with, of course, Bono Hoos and Graham Carroll now taking the helm. 34.8 in the first sector is just outside. Perhaps he would have probably wanted a 34.7, but 35.7 in the middle sector. 2 tenths off probably the threshold here at this point. This looks like it could be 3 to 4 tenths out of where he would need it to be, but going across the line, Bono Hoos indeed 3 tenths off the top. Orhan Yayovsky still on top, but going back to Coanda, 2 cars in the top 4.
Very important for them. Remember, they just need a podium to work into finalist mode, and they will now also be able to focus on depriving Kevin Siggy of a victory. Here's Freddie Rasmussen, a 34.8 in the first sector, about half a tenth off if we're being honest. The second sector maybe a full tenth off. The optimal times to get into those 46 flats, is it going to be closer to the 46.2s, 46.1s? Rasmussen shortcuts his way to the line. It's a 46.206, and well, it's quicker than his teammate Joni Tormala, and it splits the Porsche Coanders.
That's a very good lap from Freddie Rasmussen, 4th fastest there for the G2 Esports crew. Patrick Holzman now as part of Mouse. We've yet to see them so far. Well, we have seen them, should I say. Yuri Kasdorp there as well. That middle sector, though, looking a little sour. 37.086. Generally around the 35s we would have expected to see it. Remember, Yuri Kasdorp suffered the same issue on his lap, so Mouse pulling double duty here at this point now as Holzman crosses the line. Does he finish higher than his teammate or below? Above his teammate. Holzman and Kasdorp, 9 and 10, both with slowdowns.
And again, they need a second place finish for one of their drivers to work on forward. There's a lot of work for them to do back in the pack. Still, Graham Carroll get to run. It's been an up and down sort of a campaign for him in this Gamers8 tournament, and now we'll try at least to bring Mercedes-AMG some success at the very end, even though they've got a long way to go to even try to reach finalist mode for Carroll as he runs his way on that shortcut line to the end. It's a 46.554. It's the slowest of the representative lap times.
Yeah, it certainly is. Graham Carroll now figuring in 9th place ahead of Patrick Holzman. But the story is going that way of RAG. Orhan Yayovsky steps up, takes pole here at Monza, and he is going to be our ALJ fastest lap holder here at Monza. ESL R1 brought to you by Aramco once again, with a race that will surely whet the appetites of many. Let's go through the starting grid. Enzo Benito on the back row, starting from 12th after the slowdown. Also, Yuri Kasdorp alongside him too, also suffering a slow down lap in Sector 2 too. Same can be said for Patrick Holzman in 10th place as well. 9th going to Graham Carroll. For Mercedes, Joni Tormala in 8th. Bono Hoos in 7th, with 6th place going to Thibaut Casabon, as well as Mac Backham. The Big Mac starts 5th, with Freddie Rasmussen in 4th as well. Joshua Rogers in 3rd, but how about this man, Kevin Siggy, looking to try and capture the title for that of Team Redline, but he's got a real stiff contender alongside him. It's Orhan Yayovsky and RAG. Orhan Yayovsky becoming the ALJ fastest lap holder here at Monza. The Temple of Speed lights up in the colours of Romain Grosjean as RAG look to try and turn their form around here at the helm of this man.
And he saw it on the grid The green highlights for Team Redline indicating finalist mode. Only 2 drivers able to win this race and wrap up the championship. Ultimately, it's those behind that still try to chase them down. 15 minutes of racing at the Temple of Speed. Kevin Siggy's got it all against him, you had to say. I think for Porsche Coanda Esports, they'll be feeling quite confident about joining Redline in finalist mode. 2
cars in the top end. They'll surely serve them well. Let's wait and see if they can convert it. Of course, Erhan Yuyovski, your pole position, and has taken it, certainly. Brought to you by ALJ. And we'll wait and see whether he can turn that into a race win as well. But Kevin Siggy alongside is going to be looking for the launch of his life here at the Temple of Speed. The big question, Arjuna, can he do it?
No. I'm just going to be honest, he's got it all against him at the end of the day. Remember, 2 drivers working together, and effectively, even though the other 10 aren't all on the same team, they're united in one common goal: not letting Redline grab the championship and defending in many ways that spring season championship. Something I think midway through yesterday, with Kevin Siggy being tangled up with Mitchell de Jong not once but twice, might have been a little bit unexpected.
Could well be. There's Erhan Yuyovski now getting prepared, ready for the start of the race. The hype is real here at the Gamers8. ESL R1 brought to you by Aramco, where we could have the team's title decided here and now at Monza. Only 1 team in finalist mode. It's that team, Team Redline. There you can see both Enzo Benito and Kevin Siggy. Siggy having a better qualifying session on the front row of the grid, of course, joining that man Erhan Yuyovski, who's on pole. The ALJ fastest lap going to him as well as we get set and ready for the lights. The drivers now in some pre-practice as we look to get underway. Enzo Benito, who we saw ushering the cameraman away as well, doesn't want anything to perturb him this time, but I'm sure full focus will be here at the Italian track as he looks, as an Italian, to pursue yet another historic victory for his team.
I mean, let's be real. In qualifying, it is unlike anything in any other esports. The amount of focus that the drivers have to nail every little bit they can. It's a very different thing in a race situation where you can be a bit more relaxed. You can be a little bit more in tune with the race situation. In qualifying, you're just trying to feel the car, and I think a lot of drivers appreciate the fact that if the cameraman doesn't get in their eye line, they can focus on the lap ahead.
Well, the lights now come down as we look to get started here at Italy, certainly here at the Temple of Speed of Monza. Could this be the final race? Could this be it? Could this be the decider that grants Team Redline a 2nd Teams Championship under an ESL R1 event? Of course, taking the Spring Series title, but this will be the first Gamers8 occasion that they can score big at as well. As we now wait for the countdown, all the cars lining up onto the grid. The timer is now ticking as we await the lights to go red. Here we go, folks at home. First light, second light, third light, fourth light, and the 5th light. And it's pedal to the metal, and it is go, 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 go. Erhan Yuyovski getting a great start. Kevin Siggy also getting away well in there too. Joshua Rogers in the mix as well. Mac back and further back has got a sea of cars in behind him as now look at Kevin Siggy trying to challenge immediately. Joshua Rogers looking to take the Tiger line on the inside of turn 1, coming out now turn 2. It's still Siggy in 2nd place, but Yuyovski leads.
But crucially, it's Siggy that holds on. He's not been swarmed on the start and will be able to use the draft potentially, with no real teammates formed up and coordinated just yet on that run into the Roger. No real side-by-side moments for 3rd Rogers defense from Rasmussen, and in towards the corner, single-filed once again. But look at those green highlights. Siggy in 2nd, Benito in 11th. The teammates totally separated through the field.
Yeah, both of those drivers you have to watch in terms of grabbing this team's title. They need to win this race. Siggy in 2nd and only 3.5 tenths away from potential glory. Erhan Yuyovski in 1st place, currently nurturing that RAG Audi through. We run on board with Kevin Siggy as he hurtles down the Seraglio straight with Rogers in behind.
It's a climb up the hill and towards Ascari, and that means you can go that little bit deeper onto the brakes, allow gravity to assist you in slowing the car. Down from 6th gear, already seeing Patrick Holtzman in the Maus Audi, a full start. That means all the pressure's now on Yuri Kastop. He must get a 2nd place finish in order for Maus to join Redline in finalist mode in the next race, assuming we get there.
More tough times there for Maus as well, but Kevin Siggy looking to get the job done very early early on, is he? No, he's waiting in behind. The limiter flashing in the middle, not content with making the move. As you can see him entering Kerber Alboreto, does not want to leave anything to chance, nothing at stake, will instead apply the pressure to that of Erhan Yuyovski. But Joshua Rogers is looking very threatening as well. In behind, Freddie Rasmussen as well in the mix. These top four now dueling it out with a little gap. Holzman now going into the pits as we saw just then. In the back of shot now as Joshua Rogers looks to try and charge. Knows he must get in between though. Siggy going for the lead immediately now here on lap 2. Down the inside of the Retafilio chicane. A hard charging Team Redline BMW. Round the outside now the RAG of Erhan Yuyovski. And certainly now as they enter the Curva Grande. Side by side they remain too as Yuyovski looks to try and subjugate the pressure. Enter Joshua Rogers as now the Porsche looks to try and grab a handle. He's in third place. Could it be second? They head down into the Rossia now. Still Yuyovski leads, but watch out. In comes the Porsche Coanda as they battle between 2 and 3.
And off the crack for a moment goes Joshua Rogers, now trying to come back across and block Kevin Siggy in towards Lesmo 1. Very, very dangerous here. They may allow Erhan Yuyovski to break away. And here comes Freddie Rasmussen trying to get alongside as well. All this fighting looks great to watch, but say goodbye to Yuyovski. 1 second clear at the front.
Rogers feels like he might have done his job. He has upset Siggy enough in order to drop him away by a second. Incredible. Down the Seraglio straight. He's going to go for more. He's now hunts down the inside, heading through towards the Ascari chicane now. Joshua Rogers said that's enough. I'm taking second place and making his way through the famous Ascari chicane. A Porsche Coanda now moves up into second.
Just remember though for Rogers, he's got to make sure that he does not get in any sort of trouble, does not need race control to intervene. It was a very messy race just a couple of moments ago. The gap at the front also means that Rogers not enjoying much of a hole in the air. He is providing the slipstream to those behind, and as they wrap themselves through that parabolica on the run now down a 1.1 kilometer pit straight. Who's got the most draft? Who's got the most top end speed? We know the BMWs might struggle, but Kevin Siggy was aggressive into turn number 1 on the previous lap, and as he closes up to the back of the Porsche Coanda Esports car, he'll look to the inside, but not before Freddie Rasmussen does so.
Yeah, Freddie Rasmussen also looking to challenge. He's going to take the outside line instead. Kevin Siggy as they go wheel to wheel again. There's no love lost between that of Team Redline and Porsche Coanda. They have history and lots of it. Kevin Siggy on the exit, unable to make that crucial move back into second place, but now comes the Great Dane, Freddie Rasmussen. Of course, part of the Red Bull team. Of course, remember Max Verstappen, who looks after the affairs of Team Redline as well. Also, all part of the Red Bull contingent in terms of Formula 1. Freddie Rasmussen, though, unable to make that crucial move. Freddie, of course, representing Red Bull in F1 Esports. He's part of their fold, now part of G2 here in ESL R1. The stories are there in abundance. Plenty of cars now fighting on the track.
Yuri Kastorp was dropped behind Enzo Benito, so it's not just Patrick Holtzman running last. Yuri Kastorp's only adding 1 point to the total for Miles, and while Porsche Coanda go aggressive and look certain to step their way into finalist mode, Miles being left behind.
They certainly are, and just an instance there on Patrick Holtzman had to serve another drive-through, obviously off the back of speeding in the pit lane, trying to serve the penalty he had for the jump start.
I mean, rule number 1 in racing is don't hit your teammate. I feel like rule number 2 is serve a penalty correctly.
Well, hit the pit limiter at least.
Yes, exactly.
Goodness me. Now we see the cars come out of Ascari now. There's Joshua Rogers. Kevin Siggy still in third, though, and he will remain there for the time being. The gap now 1.3 between Joshua Rogers and Erhan Yuyovski. Now, certainly, as far as Porsche Coanda are concerned, the necessity isn't to win. It's just to get qualifying for the finalist mode. That's all they need. So winning isn't essential, but finishing ahead of Team Redline probably is.
Yes, no, absolutely. And I think for them, with Rogers nestled in second, importantly back them in the top 6 as well, they'll be relatively confident with where they are right now. I'll also just say about Kevin Siggy, we've been talking ad nauseum about penalty points that have been carrying over and accumulating over 3 previous days of competition. A couple of drivers have been bad. Enzo Benito's only 4 points away from a qualifying ban. Kevin Siggy, talked about him getting tangled up a couple of times with Mitchell de Jong yesterday. 0 penalty points so far in this tournament.
Well, we did just come off the back of a huge moment from James Baldwin earlier on, and of course Marco Pejic also having to serve a penalty as a response. Remember, your teammate also has to suffer the same consequences as you, despite them not even committing the offence, as now we see the cars come through the Rogers chicane now. Of course, Rogers now still holding on to second, and the gap's now minimal in between those, all the way from P2 all the way down to approximately 9th place as well. Yuri Kastorp 1.2 seconds behind that of Graham Carroll, as we now see the cars come through Lesmo 2, but now another run down the Seraglio straight.
Yeah, Benito back behind Kastorp, just of note, so there's some swapping going from 10th and 11th positions. You win and you lose together in this team championship, and that's why I really like the fact that if one teammate does something bad, the other one gets knocked as well, because ultimately, you could have some pretty silly stuff if you didn't do things like that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you never know. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if it came down to as a decider for the championship, and that was how it was decided, goodness me, we do things right here at ESL R1. As now we're seeing Kevin Siggy make his way down through towards Curva Alboreto, chasing Joshua Rogers, who's currently sat in second, as we have said. The gap now starting to come back in, though. Yayovsky now only 1 second as opposed to the 1.3 that it was before. Look at Freddie Rasmussen, though, who got a better line heading through Curva Alboreto, might get a run heading down the long straight as well as they look to head down towards the Rettifilio chicane once again. It's still Yayovsky out in front. There's Joshua Rogers as well further back. Big Mac Backham as well, who is chasing big points. We're just seeing him in behind Thibaut Casabon, as now we're seeing once again Kevin Siggy going for the move on the outside, but covering it off again. Josh Rogers showing that defensive, certainly that defensive mindset he can instill. He's not just a fast driver, he's also a stern defender.
And the one thing that some drivers noted to me when I was talking to them about Monza in particular is it's true in the real life, it's true in this virtual laser scan representation here on Wrenchboard as well. Monza is oh so bumpy in the left side of the track on the entry into the Rettifilio, especially tricky under braking, even with ABS. Look at Enzo Benito, Yuri Kastrop. They're fighting effectively to be the not last driver, if we're being honest. We can exclude Patrick Holtzman after his double drive-through penalties. They're having a lot of fun, all things considered. I don't think that this is where Yuri Kastrop necessarily had his race going in mind.
No, not at all. I think he's had his fair share of tough times, I think, as a unit, as we now see them come together. Now, this is Matt Backham on the back now, Thibaut Casabon, as we're now seeing the top right of your screen. You can see there as we ride on board with Big Mac, as he looks to try and challenge heading through down the Sorrello Straight. Needs to get himself closer, though, however, to Thibaut Casabon, who has been impressive recently as well. Came into the fold at the tail end of the spring series. Of course, we're seeing at the top end as well, Siggy getting closer, 2/10 away. He's coming in and out. All he needs is a long straight to challenge the Porsche.
Yeah, and let's just point out as well some of the driver lineups that we've got here, because 7 and 8, the next two races have to be done by the drivers out on track. For Kastrop and Holtzman, it's Moritz Lohner and Max Benecke that are watching on in the wings. They are hoping that Miles can be in finalist mode by the time that they enter the fold. It's a very different story for the likes of Josh Rogers and Matt Backham. They made sure that Rogers is in contention for a race where they'll enter finalist mode, as well as the race that will secure them finalist mode. Different approaches to work their way on forward, and now Kevin Siggy continues to try and charge his way to the front.
Yeah, he could yet get P2 this time as well. Joshua Rogers going very defensive again, opens up that outside line, which will become the inside heading out of turn 2 as they now make their way down again, swapping from Freddie Rasmussen, who again looks to challenge that of the team Redline BMW. 2 BMWs in behind that of a Porsche, belonging to that of Porsche Coanda, as they head through now towards the next right-hander at Curva Grande. There you can see Erhan Yayovsky. He's got very little to worry about. All the squabbling is going on in behind. He's got a second clearance. Lovely clean air for him.
So we called Marcel Chinchik the master of Monza. Are we just going to make that the title for RAG officially? Very well may end up being that way at some point. Into that second chicane once again, and this is a place where we've seen some really bold overtakes so far in our 4 days of competition. Not going to be the case from Kevin Siggy, and we are, I think, seeing in some ways the fact that Siggy with the drafts not closing up too much. Rasmussen's not closing too much up either. BMW top end speed definitely a concern. Right on board of the BMW though, and challenge into turn number 1 with an RAG Audi.
Yeah, it certainly was. This is where, of course, they came together earlier on, as we now see them make their way out of turn 2. Of course, Erhan Yayovsky doing enough earlier on. We saw them come together at the very start. Difficult to see whether that was from that particular lap as they head around Curva Grande in that instance before the Rogier. And naturally, a stunning view from inside the cockpit as we saw the cars come together as well. And indeed, as we now see, that is incidentally the Porsche Coanda. This is actually from the start, where Rogers did try and challenge very early on. Of course, Siggy tried to make his life very difficult before beckoning his way down through towards Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2 after that as well. But a very thrilling fight between two great drivers. And there is, of course, the replay showing Joshua Rogers making those crucial moves, heading in towards the Ascari chicane. It was a secured move. He had the nose in front where he needed it most, and that's what allowed them to move on up. Kevin Siggy showing his frustration.
I did say no, right, when you asked me if Redline was going to come out on top, and now Kevin Siggy really going to be swarmed. We'll go 3 wide with Rogers and Rasmussen on the outside of Siggy. Rogers the deepest of them under the brakes, but Rasmussen not content to be left out to dry. Look at this as they power off the corner, drag race through Curva Grande, and with the BMW of Kevin Siggy pushing Josh Rogers through the right-hander.
Yeah, coming through Curva Grande now, Rogers still holds it, but Freddie Rasmussen coming into the mix. Kevin Siggy trying to force an entry here as they head down towards the Roger Roger chicane. You can't force it, but in comes Timo Kazabon as well in behind. We've got 4 cars in the scrap, side by side between Rasmussen as well as that of Kevin Siggy. He's got a nose in front. Can he get a whole car? Into Timo Kazabon. Through towards Lesmo. 1 they run wheel to wheel. The Audi now looking to try and get himself higher and higher. 4th place on the table. Can he grasp it heading through towards Serralio Straight?
Got to be so careful on the inside of Lesmo too to not push the car out into the gravel and then get a penalty as a result. Both drivers show plenty of respect, and as we look off the back of Kevin Siggy running up the hill in towards Ascari, it's neck and neck, as close as you would like. Rasmussen's commitment in the early part of the lap has left him vulnerable now, and as Kazabon sweeps around the outside after being passed in such fashion by Moritz Lohner on day number 1, Timo Kazabon shows he can return the favor as well.
Tap dancing through the Ascari chicane as they execute through the curves. Timo Kazabon with a masterclass once again, like we saw in prior races, but it's not over yet, because enter Freddie Rasmussen, who looks to try and chance his arm, heading through Kerber Alboreto, the Great Dane now, looking to switch to the inside perhaps on the escape, can't quite do it though, and look who's behind him. Bono Hoos from nowhere comes into the fight.
Are we going to go 3 wide again? Oh, I'm getting a little bit nervy, I'm getting a little bit antsy, but it's all as we wind down the laps here in race 7 on Championship Sunday. Rasmussen's to the inside of Timo Kazabon, and as Bono House closes, he'll split the difference and go down the middle. Consecutive laps with 3 wide into turn number 1, and it's not going to work out so well this time by. Someone's going to get pushed off the track surely. 4 wide off the corner, it's Rasmussen in the gravel.
Yeah, but I tell you what, the big winner could be someone totally different indeed. As now you see Joni Tormela with a stellar run round the outside for G2 Esports. He took them all on. He made his way through Retafilio, had a better exit of anybody, through towards the Roger chicane. An unbelievable moment, the ultimate opportunist. It's Joni Tormela. He's into 4th.
4 for the price of 1. Book it potentially as our KFC's Colonel choice for move of the day. Joni Tormela watches behind as Timo Kazabon still battles with Bono House. Almost contact off the corner. It's getting alive here, and Kazabon, so careful on the exit, now watches as behind the momentum builds up.
It's pandemonium here on the penultimate lap, but still side by side they remain as we see Freddie Rasmussen and Bono House. No love lost between the man who represents Red Bull in F1 Esports. He's come toe-to-toe with Mercedes in the past, and this time here at ESL R1 as well. At the, well, brought to you by Aramco here at Gamers8. They head through down the Ascari chicane. Things are kicking off royally here as Timo Kazabon tries to hold back the tirade that's going on behind him. Rasmussen, unperturbed, jumps ahead of the Mercedes, holds position in 6th.
Those 2 Mercedes trying not to trip over one another. House and Carroll trying to be careful that Kazdorp and back and behind don't try and poke their way on through as well. 1 more lap to go. We've seen 3 wide on a couple of occasions. 4 wide on the exit of turn number 1. Are we about to get that again?
We could well do. I tell you what, this drag, this straight can really propel cars onwards and upwards. We're on the final lap of the race. Joshua Rogers and Kevin Siggy left alone now. They're going to spar it out here around the Temple of Speed as they hurtle now through towards the Retafilio chicane, rumbling over the curbs, finding every apex each way they look. They are finding apexes left, right, and centre to try and give themselves some delta time. As now we're seeing cars in behind battling once again. Timo Kazabon now being joined by Freddie Rasmussen around the Curva Grande.
It's important here as well for Yuri Kastrup to get every point he can, because the next race for Mouse, potentially their chance to get to finalist mode. Bono House sees the road in front, blocked by Timo Kazabon, and as they continue to fight into that second chicane, I think Kazabon in front of Rasmussen in front of Bono House. We don't know, but that's crazy.
Incredible, oh, big moments. Kazabon dropping through the field. He's come a cropper as Joni Tormela powers through. Should I say Freddie Rasmussen, we're currently seeing on screen. Bono House in behind as well. Graham Carroll as well now trying to bring himself through, but Yuri Kastrup out of nowhere has come to split the Mercedes dream. They exit Lesmo 2, and look at this. It's still Tormela in 4th spot.
A very important move there from Yuri Kastrup to just try and get those extra couple of points. Every point will make a difference, and that's why he's going defensive, not letting Graham Carroll get to his inside, and the big man from the Netherlands holds on to 7th.
Yeah, certainly credit to Freddie Rasmussen as well, holding back that tirade too. I tell you what, I bet the stewards are going to be taking a look at some of these moments. I tell you what, they've been stellar, but heading around on the final lap, we've got to look ahead, because Erhan Yuyovsky, after RAG's pressures, the issues that they've sustained, they exit out of Kerber Alboreto, bomb their way down the home straight. Again, it's Monza magnificence at RAG, this time going by the way of Erhan Yuyovsky. He takes victory here in Italy, here at the Temple of Speed of Monza. It is Joshua Rogers in 2nd, ahead of Team Redlines. Kevin Siggy, they'll have to wait a little longer.
I guess I was right that we're not getting the champion decided now, but it means we go to that next race with Porsche Coanda Esports in the mix, and Josh Rogers will know his time might be now.
Well, they may be in finalist mode, but now they're not alone. The next race is going to be a firecracker as the pyro lights up for Erhan Yayovsky. A win that RAG will harness. It's not over yet. Just sit tight. We could be in for a hellacious fight, but Erhan Yayovsky converting a wonderful start and getting off the line very well indeed after achieving pole position. He's well, not achieving pole position, should I say, managing to get himself across the line and taking victory. A stellar showing from the RAG man.
I think we're going to see some pretty crazy highlights here, aren't we? That was a lot of racing.
It was superb. A great effort certainly from Erhan Yayovsky. Gave it everything. Battled very hard as well. We are going to take a look at some highlights as well as we saw them get underway. It certainly was a big time. The RAG man heading down through towards turn one as they came stellar toe-to-toe. Look at this as well. A Mercedes splitting the difference heading through in towards turn one as well. Nonetheless, it was a tremendous effort. But look at this from Joni Tormela. An absolutely astonishing effort to go right around the outside of three cars, essentially leapfrogging himself into fourth place in dramatic style.
He did kind of make his teammates' life a little bit harder on the outside of the corner, if we're being totally honest, but not that much. We're just playing up the drama a little bit. Just look at this, though, as they funneled into the corner. You can see how committed they were, and as Kazabon tries to work on through, you can see plenty of drama.
Yeah, we're going to be having an interview now.
Erhan Yayovsky. What a race. My friends, you're absolutely pulling away throughout the entirety of that. Really, really strong. Again, we've mentioned it time and time again over the past few days. Tire management, was that all it really came down to towards the last few laps?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like at the beginning of the race, my goal was obviously to keep Sigi behind, because if he won, that the championship is over. But now it keeps going, and yeah, we keep on racing.
فعلا في موقف جدا صعب. سألنا المتسابق معنا إرهان يايوفسكي أن كيف السباق اللي كان معك. فعلا كان تحت ضغط جدا كبير، لكن في نفس الوقت أن بالنسبة لنا احنا سألنا أن كان في ضغط حتى برضو على الوقت اللي كانوا هم فيه. فذكر أنه صحيح أنه كان في ضغوطات الوقت ضغوطات أشياء ثانية، لكن كل الأهم بالنسبة لهم أنهم يتركون سيجي ورا وما يبغون يتقدم عشان أنه يقدرون يتحافظون على يعني على المسافات وما يبغون ينهون السباق بشكل سريع، لأن في حال فازوا راح ياخذون الكأس على طول.
The races, you know, they're sprints, they're intense. You expend a lot of energy sat in the seat, and you seem so calm. What's going on? The energy levels. I need some energy. I need, you know, are you just this chilled all the time? Are the comms with you just like, yeah, we took this one. Don't worry, we're chilling.
I missed my afternoon nap, so that's why I'm this dizzy. But yeah, no. I gave a promise to Lewis McGlade that we're gonna keep going as long as possible, so I'm just keeping that promise.
فعلا احنا سالنا المتسابق معنا انه صحيح انه واضح ان عليه شوي الهدوء الزايد، خلينا نقول في منافسته هنا بشكل عام. فايش السبب؟ يعني العاده دائما يكون في هذا الموقف يكون تحت ضغط، يكون عنده طاقه عاليه، لكن يوم سالناه قال بكل صراحه ما اخذت قيلوله الظهر ما ادري يسمونها قيلوله، لكن على العموم والنومه نومه الظهر واللي هو تبون يسمونها، لكن على العموم ما اخذها هذه النومه السريعه اللي خلته انه يقدر يصحصح بشكل جدا كويس. قال بغض النظر عن هذا كله بيحاول يسوي اللي عليه ويحاول يفوز.
Well, an absolutely fantastic race. Congratulations once again. Thank you for joining us in this post-race interview. More points on the board for RAG. And with that, we're going to throw it over to the desk because we're going to continue with our final day of competition for ESL R1 at Gamers8.
بالضبط. الحين بعد ما اخذنا المقابله السريعه هنا معنا في المسرح، خلينا نرجع للاستديو نشوف تفاصيلها ونرجع لكم في السباقات الجايه اللي ممكن تكون معنا الاخيره.